"Who's this guest you got coming?" Katie asked. Small towns were known for being nosy and not respecting privacy, but Eli took pride in not letting her business get out. If a guest wanted to be known, they'd likely be walking around and exploring town. A lot of her guests wanted to get away and hide from people, especially if they were coming in the dead of winter. "I don't know. Her name is Sarah. That's all I know." "It's not right just having strangers come and stay at your house." Katie didn't skip a beat as she pulled down another box of washers to check and make sure it was the size Eli needed. Eli's jaw clenched and her heart raced. She'd had that very same argument with her parents a couple dozen times, but ultimately they had left her the house when they'd moved, and everything on the land, ranch and vet hospital, was her property and her business. She'd hired locals who had gone to vet school to come in and run the clinic since that had never been her interest, and she had converted the giant house she'd inherited into a B&B to earn some income while she worked the ranch, which was her true passion. Not answering Katie's criticizing remark, Eli bent down and picked up a toilet plunger. She could probably use one of those too, so she slid it into the basket as she waited for Katie to finish figuring out exactly what was on her list. Her B&B had blossomed since she'd started it. She had weddings booked up through the summer every year for the past 3 years. Winter was when it was slow, but she didn't mind. It was good to have the time off from the constant drama of weddings. She could tend to her ranch, make sure all her calves were born and cared for, and bring in her wheat when harvest was done. Trying to harvest Milo while also running her B&B was exhausting, and she'd honestly thought more than once about hiring a second or third hand throughout the summer. Perhaps she should put out feelers to see if any of the local kids wanted to help, though it might be easier to get them to join in the harvest than help run her B&B. "Here you are." Katie straightened to stand as she handed over the washers. Eli took them, examined them, and dropped them into the basket along with the toilet plunger. "You going to the dance this weekend?" "Gosh, no," Katie chuckled. "That's for kids." Eli wrinkled her brow. "I ain't no kid." "Eli, you're a drop in the bucket compared to me." Eli shook her head. "Nah, Katie, you're not that old, but I'll let you get out of the dance this time. Next time, though, I'll expect to see you there." Katie laughed as she moved to the next aisle to grab the rest of Eli's list. They chatted amicably until it was time for Eli to check out. She put it on her account, which she made sure to pay up at the end of every month as soon as they sent her the bill. When she left, Katie gave her a sweet smile, and she headed out the door to her old truck. She'd brought in the farm truck that day, knowing she was stopping at the lumber yard for some dog food, some feed, and some wood. If she was really going to renovate that bathroom, she was going to need the supplies, and she didn't want to ruin her nice new truck with everything she had to bring back. It took her less time at the lumber yard than at the hardware store. Katie was a talker, and Eli knew she needed the conversation. As soon as she was back on the highway and bumbling down it, chopping her speed at 50 so her old truck wouldn't fall apart, Eli sorted through her mental to-do list. As she pulled off the highway and onto the dirt road that would eventually take her home, Eli relaxed. Her new guest coming in was a bit of a mystery. She wasn't lying when she said business routinely dried up in the winter. There were months sometimes when no one wanted to stay there, but then again, who would want to travel to her side of Kansas in the middle of winter if they weren't hunters? She had cabins for hunters on her property, and those were usually booked clear through. She'd thought about opening the house to them in the winter to increase her profit margin, but she worried about the damage they would do to the facility, which she had tried to make more of an upscale but Western-style B&B, a small sort of dude ranch. Eli turned down the second dirt road, her back tires spinning out.